The pharaohs believed their bloodline was divine, so they married their sisters. DNA shows what that did to them. The Valley of the Kings, 63 tombs carved into rock. Inside them, the remains of the most powerful dynasty the ancient world ever produced. Each mummy a dynasty, each dynasty a genetic experiment. Most of them failed. Beneath the wrappings, the bones hold the evidence. 3,000 years of genetic mistakes preserved in calcium and collagen. Every bone tells a story. The pharaonic bones tell a story of self-inflicted genetic damage. 30 dynasties, 3,000 years. The ones that inbred lasted shortest, and inside many of those remains, the DNA evidence of a civilization-ending mistake. Modern technology reading ancient mistakes. The DNA preserved what the propaganda tried to hide. The stela shows a warrior king. The DNA shows a crippled teenager. The propaganda lasted 3,000 years. The DNA exposed it. The pharaohs married within the royal family to keep the bloodline pure. Brother to sister, father to daughter, uncle to niece. The wedding ceremony consecrated the union. The genetics condemned the children. The contract was legal. The genetics were not consulted. The children paid the price. They called it preserving the divine blood. Genetics calls it a death sentence. The most famous pharaoh in history is also the best genetic evidence for what royal inbreeding does. The 2010 study extracted DNA from Tutankhamun and 11 royal family members. Each extraction was a months-long process. The hot Egyptian climate had degraded the DNA severely. Months of extraction, weeks of sequencing, years of analysis for a genome 3,000 years old. The genetic fingerprints confirmed what Egyptologists had suspected. The family tree was a closed loop. Every branch circles back. Every marriage tightens the loop. The family tree is not a tree. It is a noose. His parents were full siblings, brother and sister, children of Amenhotep III and Queen Tai. 3 consecutive generations of sibling marriage. Each generation concentrating the same recessive mutations. First generation, 25% risk of any given recessive disease. Second generation, higher. Third generation, catastrophic. The curve does not rise gradually. It accelerates each generation steeper than the last. Genetics professors use the Egyptian royals as a textbook case study. The lesson is always the same. Tutankhamun's inbreeding coefficient was 0.25, the maximum for a first-generation incestuous cross. His left foot was clubbed. Bone disease was destroying the joint. He could not walk without assistance. 130 walking canes in his tomb, not symbols of power. Medical aids for a crippled teenager. The golden mask shows a perfect boy king. The bones tell a different story. The mask was propaganda. The skeleton was truth. The gap between them is the cost of inbreeding. CT scans see through gold, through linen, through 3,000 years of propaganda. The skeleton cannot lie. The embalmers tried to hide the deformities. The CT scanner found them 3,000 years later. He married his half-sister Ankhesenamun. Their 2 children were stillborn. The dynasty was finished. Both fetuses showed severe congenital abnormalities. Spina bifida, sprangled deformity. Neither survived to birth. The DNA that crippled the father killed the children before they could draw breath. 2 tiny coffins, 2 stillborn princesses. The dynasty's last hope, dead before birth. The mathematics were inevitable. At this level of inbreeding, healthy offspring become the exception, not the rule. Within a few years of Tutankhamun's death, the 18th dynasty collapsed. The bloodline was extinct. The throne passed to Ai, a courtier, then to Horemheb, a general neither carried royal blood. The dynasty was over. 2 commoners on the throne. The divine bloodline's final admission of failure. But the 18th dynasty was not the only one that made this mistake. Every Egyptian dynasty that practiced sibling marriage collapsed. Every single one. The Ptolemaic dynasty, Alexander's successors in Egypt, They adopted Egyptian royal customs, including sibling marriage. Ptolemy II married his full sister Arsinoe. It became dynasty policy for 300 years. They put it on the coins, brother and sister, king and queen, celebrating what genetics would punish. Each coin a generation, each generation more inbred. The faces on the coins never showed the damage inside. The most educated dynasty in the ancient world, Greek philosophers, Egyptian priests, and they still married their siblings. They cataloged every star, measured the Earth's circumference, but could not see what inbreeding was doing to their children. Cleopatra VII was the product of at least 6 generations of inbreeding. She was the last of her line. The Ptolemaic dynasty lasted 3 centuries. But by the end, the genetic diversity of the royal family was lower than in most isolated village populations. 13 generations. Diversity declining toward 0. The dynasty was dying from the inside. The last Ptolemaic burials. The dynasty that inherited Alexandria's libraries could not inherit genetic health. Cleopatra was brilliant, but she was also the last survivor of a dynasty that had been genetically collapsing for generations. But here is the twist that DNA reveals. The commoners were fine. The ordinary people of Egypt showed normal genetic diversity throughout the pharaonic period. The marketplace told the genetic truth. Diverse faces, healthy children, normal human reproduction. The tomb paintings showed diverse faces, different skin tones, different features. The commoners were genetically healthy. 1,500 years, stable diversity. The commoners were doing what the royals refused to do, marrying freely. The abuser El-Malek study confirmed it. Commoner Egyptians across 1,500 years showed healthy genetic diversity. The pharaohs wrecked their own genetics, while the population they ruled stayed genetically healthy. Healthy parents, healthy children, the genetic success the pharaohs could never replicate. A commoner family stela, mother, father, 4 healthy children. The achievement the pharaohs could never replicate. The commoners married normally. The royals married their siblings. The commoners survived. The royals went extinct. This was not a population problem. This was a policy problem. The ruling class chose to inbreed. The choice was political, not biological. The biology was the consequence. The court saw the consequences: weak kings, dead heirs, but the political structure could not adapt. Royal children who died before their 5th year. The stela recorded the grief. The DNA explains the cause. The theology was clear. The pharaoh was divine. Divine blood could not be diluted with commoner blood. The mythology demanded it. Osiris married his sister Isis. The pharaoh was expected to follow divine precedent. Religion commanded what genetics punished. The pharaohs obeyed the gods and destroyed their own bloodline. The temples reinforced the message. The pharaoh is divine. Divine blood must not be diluted. Living Horus, son of Ra. The titles demanded purity. The genetics demanded diversity. The titles won. Every column proclaimed the pharaoh divine. Every column reinforced the marriage policy that would kill the dynasty. Every offering, every prayer, every ritual reinforced the ideology that was killing the dynasty. And Egypt was not alone. Every civilization that tried this made the same mistake. The Habsburgs, Europe's most powerful dynasty, they practiced consanguineous marriage for 2 centuries. Charles II of Spain, inbreeding coefficient 0.254. Higher than Tutankhamun's, he was infertile, disabled, and the last of his line. Same jaw deformity, same inability to produce heirs, same end to a dynasty, 3,000 years apart. Different continent, different millennium, same mistake, same result. Madrid to Memphis, 3,000 years apart. The same belief in divine blood, the same extinction. The jaw grew larger each generation. The jaw is the visible marker. The invisible damage was worse. Same coefficient, same physical symptoms, same dynastic extinction, 3,000 years apart. The Hawaiian Ali chiefs practiced the same strategy, brother-sister marriage, to preserve sacred bloodlines. Egypt, Spain, Hawaii, three civilizations separated by oceans and millennia. The same mistake, the same result. The genetics behind the catastrophe are simple. Every human carries roughly 5 to 10 lethal recessive mutations. They cause no harm because the other copy of the gene is functional. When siblings marry, the probability that a child inherits 2 broken copies of the same gene doubles with each generation. Tutankhamun's genome showed long runs of homozygosity across multiple chromosomes. Both copies of the DNA identical. Every hidden genetic disease in the family gets switched on. Bone disease, immune deficiency, infertility, all at once. Not one disease, many diseases all at once. The genetic load becomes unbearable. Every hidden genetic disease in the family gets switched on. Bone disease, immune deficiency, infertility, all at once. By the 3rd generation, the genetic load is catastrophic. Stillbirths, deformities, early death. The simulation is clear. By generation 3, more than half of all pregnancies will end in miscarriage or stillbirth. Fewer children born, fewer surviving to adulthood. The mathematics of extinction. Half the children dead before age 5. The royal nursery was a genetic graveyard. Tutankhamun had multiple conditions simultaneously. His immune system was compromised. A malarial infection may have killed him. The deeper question is why the pharaohs never stopped. They could see the results. Stillborn children, disabled kings, short reigns, but they continued. Shorter reigns, earlier deaths. The pattern was visible to anyone paying attention. The priests knew, the courtiers knew, but the theology could not be questioned. They could record the stars, calculate the Nile flood, build pyramids to the millimeter. But they could not question the divine bloodline. They mapped the heavens. They predicted the flood to the day. They could not predict what incest would do. The theology trapped them. To admit the bloodline was failing was to admit the gods were wrong. The pharaohs could not stop inbreeding without admitting they were not gods. So they chose extinction over honesty. The Ramessid dynasties that followed the 18th learned partially. They reduced sibling marriage. They lasted longer. Ramesses II had over 100 children by multiple wives. His genetic strategy was the opposite of Tutankhamun's. Dozens of children carved into the temple walls. Each one a genetic insurance policy. Ramesses lived to roughly 90 years old. Tutankhamun died at 19. The genetic strategy made the difference. 90 versus 19. The longest lived pharaoh bred widely. The shortest lived bred narrowly. Ramesses built monuments that lasted 3,000 years. His genetic strategy lasted longer than his cousin Tutankhamun's entire life. More wives, more children, more genetic diversity. The 19th dynasty lasted longer because it diversified. The data is unambiguous. Outbreeding dynasties lasted longer. Every time, the correlation between outbreeding and dynasty survival is one of the clearest findings in bioarchaeology. The scatter plot is damning. Higher inbreeding, shorter dynasty, no exceptions. The dynasties that bred widely survived. The dynasties that bred narrowly went extinct. DNA made this clear. And what about the commoners who outlived every dynasty? Modern Egyptians, especially Coptic communities, show strong genetic continuity with the ancient population. The Copts cluster closest to the ancient samples. 13 centuries of endogamy within the Christian community preserved the ancient genome. The monastery walls protected the faith. The faith protected the genome. Coptic endogamy preserved what pharaonic inbreeding destroyed. Different theology, different marriage rules, same genetic preservation. The Copts outperformed the pharaohs. The commoner bloodline survived every dynasty change, every foreign conquest, every plague. 7,000 years of continuity. The farmers outlasted every pharaoh who ever claimed divine blood. The river, the soil, the people, 7,000 years of continuity that no dynasty could match. The same tool, the same technique, The same DNA. The commoners are the true ancient Egyptians. The real Egyptian bloodline was never in the palaces. It was in the fields. And it is still there. The golden mask endures. The bloodline behind it is gone. Millions visit the mask every year. Nobody visits the bloodline. It does not exist. The most photographed face in archaeology. The face of a dynasty that destroyed itself. Every photograph captures the mask. None captures what the mask conceals. The commoner blood endures, unremarkable, unrecorded, and still flowing. 3 generations walking together. 7,000 years of genetic continuity in their DNA. The Pharaohs' biggest mistake was believing their blood was different. DNA proved it was only more fragile. 2 Egyptian genomes. Same era, same population. One destroyed by policy, one preserved by freedom. The Nile fed them all, kings and commoners. But only the commoners let the Nile's diversity flow through their bloodlines. The same fields, the same river, the same people. 7,000 years and counting. Sources in the description. Subscribe if you want to see what DNA reveals next. If the Pharaohs destroyed their own bloodline, what other ruling families are making the same mistake today?